I'm Beth Engelman for the Pioneer Press, and today we're with Dan Pierce, and we're talking about if your battery dies. And I know that we talked about this before. It's more typical in the summer
Yes.
when it's warm out.
Yeah, it's actually the heat is actually harder on batteries than cold is.
Okay.
So it's just good to know how to do a jump start if you need to.
Exactly, because I will never forget the first time my mom ever let me drive her car to school when I was in high school. I left the lights on, and the battery died, and a tow truck had to come, and then I had to take a job at the Gap to pay her back. Not that I didn't mind working, but nowadays you can do it yourself if you have the right tools, jumper cables.
The easiest thing is to always remember that red is always positive.
Okay.
Red is always positive, black is always negative.
Okay, and a good way to think about that is red is bright and positive
Yes.
and happy.
Exactly.
Okay.
You always want to look on the car to see which side is positive and which side is negative.
Okay.
A lot of times it'll just show you on the battery. Sometimes it'll have a plus and a minus, or a lot of times the battery itself will have a red cover over the positive side, and you just want to make sure that you always put your red on your positive.
Okay, great.
So to hook up a car, you want to take your black, put it on your negative, like that. And then your positive, you always want to get around over as much as you can on to the bracket itself.
Okay, so you're just trying to get it to touch the metal.
Yes, you always want to make sure that it's always on the metal.
Okay.
The positive will always have extra connectors to it.
Okay.
So you'll always have more pieces on the positive side. The negative side is always just the ground.
Would this be something that would be in your owner's manual?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
that's
it will.
good too.
Always, everything to learn about the car actually is in the owner's manual.
Okay.
So,
That's why it's your best friend.
yes, exactly.
Okay, and then you put them there, and then you do the other end.
On the other car, you
Okay.
always want to make sure that you hook up your negative first.
Okay. Why?
And-
Do you know?
That way, if there's any arcing or anything like that, when you hook up the positive side,
Uh-huh.
it'll always go back. It'll always have somewhere to go and not into you.
Okay, great. And should the car be running when you hook them up, or no?
Yes, you can have the other car running if you like.
Okay.
You don't
But-
have to.
okay.
You can start it after you hook it.
I think
It's
probably-
always safer to, if you want to leave that car off, to hook everything up.
I'm all about safety, so I
Yes.
think that's a good tip.
Then on the other car, if you can find a better ground than actually going right to the battery, if you can find somewhere on the frame that is a good connection point where you can put the clips, it's always better to do.
Okay, because that's a battery that doesn't have issues. On
Yes.
this one, you have to. Okay.
Yeah, it's better to.
Okay, and you always do the negative first.
Always do the negative first.
Okay.
And then do your positive.
Okay, great. And then how long do you run that car to juice this one up?
Just let it sit there and idle. You don't actually have to go and step on the gas or anything
Okay.
like that. Just let it sit there and idle and let it be for a couple minutes
Okay.
and try yours. If it
Okay.
still doesn't do it, let it sit for a little bit longer and try it again. If it doesn't start, then don't let it sit there for very long. You can cause damage.
Okay.
So if it doesn't work after maybe 10 minutes of trying,
There's something wrong
There's
with it,
something-
which actually happened to me this summer. I tried, and then it didn't. It was actually the battery.
yeah.
Needed to be replaced.
Yeah.
And when you try the car, can you have the cables hooked up? Is that okay?
Yes, you should always have the cables hooked up.
Okay.
Yeah, you should always have them hooked up as
Even
you're
when
trying
you
to
try
jump
it.
start it.
Okay, great. And just a reminder for those of you who are watching at home, this is something that you should only do if you're comfortable.
Yes.
This is not something that you're not 100% sure. You know what? There's nothing wrong with having someone else jump it for you
Exactly.
or calling a towing company
Correct.
too.
Correct.
But this
it's
is
always
something-
cheaper to call a tow truck than to ruin your car.
Exactly. But if you have the cables, you want to learn how to do it, that's how it's done.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
great. Well, Dan, thank you so
You're
much.
very, very welcome. I'm glad I could help.
This was great. Thank you so much. This is Beth Engelman from Mommy on the Shoestring. Bye.
Bye.
I'm cold. Yay.